thinking. Hey, welcome to Purpose Maker. We're back for another episode. I've got an interesting gentleman on today, Jonathan Lee. We're going to have a great conversation today. Got a lot of things to talk about. We'll read his bio real quick, and we'll get into some of this thing. Today is titled The Beauty of Purpose, or as he had said, the purpose of beauty. So we'll get in talking about these. He's an architect by trade, so this is going to be a real fun conversation. He received his Master's of Architect from the University of Michigan in 1990 after completing his last semester of study at the Technical Institute in Vienna in Austria. While in Austria, Jonathan worked in the studio of a well-known Austrian architect, Helmut Weimer?
Helmut Wimmer.
Helmut Wimmer. That's an Austrian name. Upon his return to the United States, he worked under Charles Warren of New York, John Blateau of Philadelphia, in the offices of Ferguson and Shamamian architects of New York, where he was a senior design associate. From 95 to 96, he served as the chair of design in Rome, Italy for the University of Notre Dame Studies Program. He also taught design at Parsons School of Design and Institute of Classical Architect Art, both in New York. In 1999, he founded his own firm, the Jonathan Lee Architect, and over the past 20 years, he has worked on residences along Michigan's Gold Coast, through northern Michigan, on Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket, Long Island, Palm Beach, St. John's Island, Florida, Greenwich, Connecticut, and Charlottesville, Virginia. Work's been published in Progressive Architect, The Classic, Architect New Zealand, Period Homes, and the Institute of Classical Architect book, A Decade of Art and Architecture, 92 to 2002. He's exhibited his work in New York, Chicago, San Francisco, and in Italy. Jonathan, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
This is going to be a great one, talking about your life and architecture and beauty and all these different things and tying that into purpose. I like to start kind of hearing people's background. So if you wouldn't mind, where were you born? Where did mom and dad call home? And
so my parents were born, my parents worked in Detroit. My father was a pastor in Warren, and I was born in Warren Community Hospital. So I'm born in Detroit.
Born in Detroit, so you got some deep roots down there.
Oh yeah,
right. You went to Michigan University, so you're definitely a Wolverine.
Mm-hmm.
You and I talked a little bit before we got going here. Some of your upbringing was in Africa. So how did that happen, and what were your parents doing?
So my father and mother were called to the mission under a mission program called Africa Inland Missions. It goes back even farther than that, just from my family's perspective. My mother was born in Africa in 1936, and my grandfather took the family out there in 1934. So they were pre-war people, and then they ended up staying there through 1945 because they got stuck through the war and couldn't come home because of all the danger that was involved in crossing the Atlantic. So we have a long history in the family that goes to Africa and the Congo, and it starts from actually the background where they grew up, and my mother's grandfather's father was at Moody and ended up being a pastor as well. So we have kind of a history that goes a little ways back in the mission fields.
Sure.
And that being said, we left my parents left and took us kids with us. There were two of us, my brother and myself. I'm the youngest, and I was 2 when we left and came back when I was 12, with 1 year intermittent in the middle called furlough. And at 2, we were stationed or sent to Neuchâtel, Switzerland, which then That was for language study because French is the official language of Congo. And at that time, it was called Zaire. When my grandfather was there, it was called Belgian Congo under the Belgian colony.
Mm-hmm.
And it was then in 60 was got its independence under a fair amount of war and civil unrest. And consequently, in 67, we were scheduled to go out. My father had an ulcer and basically saved our lives with that ulcer because we didn't end up in the middle of the Civil War. So I have friends that their father was part of the Civil War and lost a doctor. There's a famous doctor that was killed in the Simba War. And he was part of that escape that happened. So I have a long history of knowledge of that country's unrest and the trials and tribulations that country and those people have suffered for centuries.
Yeah, so we'll get into some of that. What is one of your favorite memories of childhood in that age when you're in Congo?
There's so many because it's so vivid. I'm a person that is visually oriented and have a memory based on photographs essentially in my head. And so I can remember many things that really as if they were yesterday visually. I'm not an audible learner, or excuse me, I'm an audible learner, not by reading, but by hearing and listening. And just because of my background of how I was created, being dyslexic. And so my coping skill is visual memory. And so memories of that area in my life are still very present. Good friends of the Africans still are very important to me. We still keep in contact even after 40 years. We still are very connected. Even now with new technologies, we're even more connected and can help and support them from a long distance, even though it's unsafe. But I guess there's so many things in my childhood that were, I guess, really harsh because I went to a boarding school, and then there's many things that were really beautiful about it, and especially retroactively looking at it from an adult's perspective. I told my mother before she passed away that she gave me the greatest story a person could ever have, because whenever I want to include my faith and my story together of being a missionary kid and being a believer in Christ, we tend to, or I tend to be able to communicate to people that want to listen to both sides of the story then. And it makes it actually very easy for me to open up about why it's important. Not that I'm a perfect person. God knows that for sure. And I tell people that it's not because of my faith that I'm in any better than anyone else in the world. We're all sinners and have fallen from grace, but we are granted grace by his salvation. So that being said, I guess my childhood was, there was beauty in all of it. I mean, you got to see the landscape in which I lived. It was essentially an eternal spring, 72 degrees essentially all the time. We lived in 6,000 feet altitude, and it was gorgeous where the school was, and always green, always abundant in fruits and vegetables and things of which were necessary to live there. And it was just a beautiful life that way.
What do you remember about the house? Did you live in a wooden structure, a concrete structure? What was that?
Yeah, so my dad was a builder, and he built houses and he built dorms. all the buildings were essentially brick with roof structure that was made of pole material, timber material of wood, and then a steel roof, which I remember. The steel roof was very important to me as a child because it essentially sang me to sleep in the rains of the Congo. And if you can imagine what that would be like, it was so comforting because, and it still is to this day to me, which I actually have a metal roof on my house today.
Just to hear it,
Just to
hear that rain.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so, was this a rainforest?
Okay, so no, we were on the edge of the rainforest area. Depending on, okay, so where I was in the school was in in sort of, I guess, mountains, the Blue Ridge Mountains, around the lakes of, well, they were Maputo and Idi Amin. They were changed from Victoria and Lake Leopold. So they had changed the names, but these were large lakes, the largest lakes in Africa, actually. And they were division between Uganda and Zaire, Congo, and then also Congo, Rwanda, and Tanzania, where there's another lake, Lake Albert. So we were we lived in the Ituri forest, we lived in the bushland, and we lived in the mountains. So I kind of had the three ranges of where we lived. We moved 26 times in our
time in Africa. Wow.
23 times. 23 times.
23 times while you're living there.
23 times.
So the boarding school you went to, was it all Caucasian or was it mixed? How did the boarding school look?
Yeah, so it was a mix. It was mostly missionary kids, all missionary kids, mostly European missionary kids, German, American, Canadian. A lot of Canadians were part of our program there, and British. And that's funny. I forgot Australian. So, and then there were a couple nationals that paid to be in part of the program there. And one of my best friends was a national, Artemis Babili.
He's still with us today?
He's still with us today. Nice. He lives in North Carolina. He got to move back to the States because he was actually born here in the States with his father's education at seminary school.
Nice. A memory or a story you had told me, because I remember, I think you ran some collegiate track.
Yeah.
And you said that was born out of running in Africa because there was an area that might have been a little dangerous.
Well,
tell me about that story.
Well, the area that was dangerous was the Biggie dorm, which was at the school, right? There was the Titchies, the Biggies, or the Titchies, Intermediates, and Biggies. You can imagine what that was. The Titchies were me. Yeah. I was a Titchie, and then I eventually became an intermediate. And the Biggies always picked on the Titchies. It was kind of like a little form of Lord of the Flies, if you will.
Yeah.
They were pretty bullyish. And even though they were Christian kids, they were like kids. And they would chase us down and run us through paddling machines and stuff like that, where they would line up and paddle you with ping pong tables. And by good George, I was not going to get caught, and actually never did get caught.
Nice. And then that transferred into collegiate athletics.
Yeah, they always, there was two of us, Artemis and I were the two fastest kids.
Yeah.
And we always competed on play day and track and field day together. And they always teamed us up because we were the competitive two people that were the closest and fastest. And yeah, it translated into, I love to run, or did love to run. And then I ran in high school and still hold 40-year-old records today. It's my high school.
For high school.
Yeah.
And what events?
Long jump, 100 and 200. And I had the 400, but some kid came and
got it. Oh, he was quick.
He trained after me. Like 40 years ago, the training wasn't like it is today. He only broke the record like 10 years ago. So
I
had it for 30.
Did that athletic ability carry you into college?
Yeah. So that's the reason college. Okay, so it goes a little deeper than that. First of all the moving around and all the education that was lacking in the missionary situation, even though it was a boarding school. Teachers weren't necessarily at the same level that they are here. And not that I have anything bad to say about them other than that they didn't catch me in a way that I was dyslexic and I needed assistance on how to read. So, and this has to do with my track. So just bear with me a minute. It wasn't until my sweetheart, high school sweetheart, which is now my wife, Andrea, she's sitting in Sunday school class and I can't read. I like literally can't read the verse. And reading Sunday school terrified me if you had to read out loud. And you remember those days where everybody's like, "Oh, let's go read a verse around the thing." I would literally count the kids, count the number of verses that they would read, and then go to that verse that I'm going to have to read, and try to read it over and over and over again by the time it got to me. So it's basically like memorizing it real quickly, right? And I'm pretty good at memorizing. Because of that problem. Well, truth is that I ended up going to get some help eventually because she said, "Look, you need some help." The superintendent was doing her master's in dyslexia, so I was like a case study for her, and so then I ended up going to assistance, getting some help, getting testing. And one of the psychologists said, "You better not go to college." Well, that just tore me apart because I wanted to go to college. And well, you can't, you're going to have a rough time. You tend to be a little bit, well, she said you're suicidal because she did all these tests. You have this, you're depressive,
Was any of that true?
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't, I wasn't really wasn't like going to jump off a bridge or anything like that. But
yeah,
those, if you let those kinds of feelings get out of control, I imagine that I could go there.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people could probably. But I had a loving family and a loving parents and supportive, and I was really good at sports. And so I was popular and I didn't have any negativity that way. However, I just couldn't read, and it literally, I had a third grade level reading level at 10th grade and 11th grade is kind of when they found it. So you can imagine what that's like. So that's, yeah. And I would take classes that were really difficult in a way, and just hide it. And the psychologist said that in her testing, what she did find was that I have an incredibly strong coping skills. I can cope with just about any torture in a way that if you're going to put me in a room and make me read in front of 50 people, I will do it. It just will kill me. I'll do it till I, so what? What do I
suffer for it?
Suffer for it. Yeah. Okay. So, what that has to do with running is I wanted to run for university and I was capable of doing it. And she realized that I was so driven to go to school. She said, "Look, you should try it. You should do it." So I ended up going to Eastern Michigan, a lower level school, that as far as getting the test scores to get in, I got in. And, I wasn't terrible in the way that I could actually run NCAA level because I was eligible with my test scores even. So I had really good math skills. I had really good other skills that were not to do with reading. And that's what got me through is like I had straight A's in math, straight A's in art, other things that, avoid all of as many as the literature classes as you can.
Sure. Do you have any records in track in college?
No, I don't. I did letter. I was running with, Olympians, and it was just wow. That just blew me away. My world got so much bigger when I got to university. Eastern Michigan had a kid that was a bronze medalist in the '84 games, and it just was. It wasn't that I was winning at college. It was that I was there and I got there. That was super satisfying.
Sure.
I was told I shouldn't go to college. So
me too.
Making it happen was like pretty great.
So at what time, when did you start getting an interest in architecture?
Oh, wow. So it's my life, again, where I got to travel a lot with my parents, Belgium, Switzerland, London, the British Isles. So I saw a lot. Of architecture that interested me historically, and I love the history of our profession, and our trade, if you will. That it's and I love to make things with drawings and beautiful paintings. I watercolor. I do things that represent imaginary cities. Is one of the ones that I did for the Classicist as the cover. It's the cover of the journal, number 2. That was a big deal. It's actually what got me to in position to be the professor of the chair of the dean, or chair of design in Rome.
And that was with Notre Dame?
Yeah, with Notre Dame.
Tell me a little bit about that.
So Notre Dame was on my list of schools to go to because they were interested in traditional architecture. However, they were non-accredited at that point when I was in my master's, and I needed to be accredited in order to be licensed. And then Notre Dame was, I had friends that had gone to Notre Dame, or were connected to Notre Dame, and I worked in Philadelphia for a guy named by the name of John Blateau, who's really classical architect, and that was a God thing for sure that got me in with him. Just that's a whole nother story it's important to tell you that classical architecture isn't really thought of as mainstream, and certainly not taught in universities. But I was always sort of a rebel in the sense of pushing the boundaries of, I wasn't going along with the modern Bauhaus school of architecture. I didn't really, I guess at the end of the day, I didn't like it, and I didn't know why. Now I do know why.
Why didn't you like it?
Well, I think it has to do with the human proportions and ratios that aren't there necessarily in a way that is as clear in classical architecture, and it just didn't. When you go into the Pantheon, and your daughter looks up at 4 years old, and says, and I ask her, "What do you see?" And she sees the Oculus and the clouds going by, and she says, "I see heaven, Dad," or Daddy, whatever. And when a 4-year-old can figure that out, and it psychologically imprints what she knows and thinks about what heaven is, it brings heaven down to earth with the way that the perspective works in that building, and the fact that you're in a circular sphere. Out of the mouths of babes comes the truth, man. So it was an incredible moment that just told me that, affirmed that my belief in classical architecture isn't just a thing that man made, but it's a divine gift.
Inspired by God.
Yeah. And of course, that sort of brings out the Calvinism in me, that we have all things are inspired by God and given to us in due time.
So you didn't go to Notre Dame for your formal education, but somebody that you love following you is, right?
Oh, yeah. So Notre Dame,
This is fun.
So Notre Dame, they recruited me out of New York and got me to go to teach. That was the thing I should have sort of completed there in that comments. And then so it's come a full circle. I've been in this world of classical architecture, and there is a world out there. If anybody's interested, I'd be glad to show them that world. It's really finding its own renaissance, and started with three main architects, and there was a very thin little thread through the 40s that was one architect, and that thread then comes to all of us today in our generation. So then there were more of us in my generation. There was John Blateau, Alan Greenberg, and Robert Stern, who just passed away. That really got us all a place to work and a place to develop in the world of architecture. And Silas is my son. He's my youngest boy, and he's now at the University of Notre Dame for his master's degree. He was in journalism at the University of Michigan, so he's gone to Michigan and then gone to Notre Dame, just like my family has done. So, by the way, there's a strong family connection to Notre Dame football. My family, there's a guy by the name, my great uncle, Shorty Longman, was Frank (parentheses Shorty Longman is his nickname. He was 6'2" like me, and I guess I resemble what he looks like a little bit, or quite a bit, I was told. He's the one that actually went to Notre Dame, taught them how to play football, and Notre Dame recognizes him as who taught them how to play football. He came from Michigan. He played for Yost in the point a minute era in 1903 to 1905, won 2 national championships, All-American, and then went to Notre Dame to become their head coach. Came back in 1909, beat Yost in the great game of 1909, 11-3. Yost lost. And
fun.
And 1909 was the start of the rivalry
between Michigan and Notre Dame.
Michigan and Notre Dame. Yost campaigned to all the other schools to not play that little Catholic school, because if you lose to them, there's no chance of you getting to be a national champion, which is still today. And they didn't play till 1942 again. And what's interesting about it to me is, hey, all things come around full circle. And I just think it's pretty cool. We're back to, my family has this sort of dual citizenship, if you will, between the
Michigan and Notre Dame.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
So this is kind of fun. I grew up about a half an hour from Notre Dame.
Yeah.
I played hockey in the youth program there. IYHL, which is the Irish Youth Hockey League.
Nice.
Went to lots of Notre Dame games. One of my favorite, I have 2 incredible memories there. One memory, we were going to the Blue Gold scrimmage, and that was a football scrimmage that happened in the Loftus Center. And I was tying my shoe. I was probably about 10, 12 years old. I was tying my shoe at the doors, so double doors going in, and Jerome Bettis hurdled me.
Nice.
Going into the scrimmage. That was one that was fun. And then another one, I was at a hockey game, and one of the pucks, 2 things happened in the hockey game that were crazy. One of the pucks flipped up into the stands, and I caught it.
Nice.
That was fun. And then my ticket in the same game, my number got called, and I got to go out to center ice. You walk out on a little carpet, and you get to take a shot at a goal that's got like a little slot, right? And if you hit it, if you get through that slot, you win a car. Now, I did not win the car. I hit the wood, so that was good. But the other person that was shooting with me was Lou Holtz.
Oh, no way.
So it was awesome. There's some really fun memories from
That's cool.
From Notre Dame. So I love that campus. And now.
So speaking of another famous coach, Shorty Longman is my relative, So he recruited Newt Rodney Newt Rotley is a freshman on his team. They couldn't play his year, but so it was interesting because he was ready to leave Notre Dame because he couldn't stand my uncle. But the problem was is Yost accused Notre Dame of ineligible use of players because they were supposedly Shorty was using professionals. Well, story goes on that basically Yost was doing the same thing because what kids did in that day was they went around the country barnstorming 4-H fairs or whatever the fairs were, the county fairs, right? And they would play football in those fairs, and they would split the gate money, so they were getting paid
to come
play kind of in a way. It wasn't professional,
so that was considered professional just because you got paid a little bit,
because it got paid. And so
even though it's exhibition,
right, it's just and so Yost was doing the same thing. He had players doing the same thing, but Notre Dame doesn't like a scandal, so he got fired after that year, that second year, whatever. So whatever.
Notre Dame doesn't like a scandal.
Yeah.
My middle daughter's working to get into Notre Dame.
Nice.
So
good deal.
That's
I hope it happens.
Yeah, we do too. She might get a choice between there and West Point. So that would be
that's even better.
It's a tough choice.
Tough choices there.
Mm-hmm.
So Silas, just to give you an in scoop on someone that who's my son, he's what he calls, he's like Martin Luther going into the Catholic world. He threatened to dress up as Martin Luther and
walk into a Catholic school
and for Halloween and take the 95 Thesis and nail it on the wall.
Oh man! So how's he doing with that program? How much longer does he have?
He has another year and a half. It's a 3-year program for your master's under the program that he's under because he didn't do architecture undergrad. So he's got a 3 years. So he's halfway in 2 weeks or in a week or so. Sure. And I'm excited about that because he wants to come back and run the practice.
Work with Dad.
Work with us.
Yeah. Congratulations, man. That's fun.
See. Yeah. Hopefully.
There's something else I wanted to discuss with you. That was a pretty powerful statement you made before. This was something you had said before your daughter got married.
Yep.
And you said you were going to give her some marriage advice. And it's very simple advice, but I don't think a lot of people do it.
Right.
And the advice was very simple. And this is what it was. Always live in the light.
Yeah. Always walk in the light.
What did you mean by that?
Well, kids have a tough time in life trying to fit in, the peer pressure. I think it's always been there, but I think it's even stronger now and more intense with media. Different pressures. I think the pressures come on stronger. They're not isolated anymore in how they grow up. It's
sure.
It's less innocent.
You can take a cell phone and you could record something in a locker room now.
Yeah, and you can take a cell phone and you can blow up somebody's life by making lies, essentially, right? And so I think our kids don't necessarily go on the paths that we necessarily think they should, obviously, and just because you're a God-fearing man, and I'm believe in the faith of our Lord Savior, and doesn't mean you're going to have hardship. In fact, you should probably count on hardship. And the family life was hard life to live in this world where we have so much pressures. And I wanted her to know that some of the pressures that were being put on her and asked of her because of financial reasons, and just like I don't need to get into the nitty gritty of it and point out shortcomings, but the reality is shortcomings are an easier path to take than what is right. And what is right will be, you can count on it being more expensive in financial ways, in in mental capacity, in spiritual ways, it's tougher to do the right thing. It just is. That's just reality. But living with it is much easier by doing the right thing. And so I just wanted her to know that I've got her back and that she needs to say her piece in her marriage and her starting out, that you need to always live in the light, walk in the light, whatever that is. Um, always know that you're going to have a easier time with your conscience and your day-to-day life, and people won't judge you, because kids are terrified of people judging them. They're just terrified of it. Like, oh, she's judging me, he's judging me. And
that's part of identity formation as we're kids.
Yeah. And I think it's more so for girls. I'm a girl dad, or whatever that's called.
Yeah.
And I didn't grow up that way. I grew up in a boy world because I was in a dorm, all boys, you can imagine, and the girls were on the other side of the dorm, and we were forbidden to even,
look that way,
look down that hallway at all. You're just like, you're chastised basically.
Uh-huh.
And the girls had to sit on this side of the living room, and this side of the, it was like a common room, but in the middle of the dorm, the girls had to sit over here and the boys had to sit over here. And,
Yeah.
they were aliens to me, right? Until I became a dad, and they were still aliens. Like, this was a whole new world. But being a girl dad has taught me a lot about myself, and about patience, even though I'm horribly impatient, still has tempered that.
Uh-huh.
And I just wanted my girls, both of my girls, my oldest Olivia is a lawyer, and she works hard, and she's an amazing woman.
Very smart.
Yeah. And just dedicated to what she does and committed to excellence. And Chloe ended up going to University of Michigan and becoming, she studied architecture as well. And, this was no pressure on me. That's just something they wanted all to do because they loved what I do. And one of the biggest fears they've all had and expressed to me is that they can't measure up to my expectations, which it's just like, dude, you've far exceeded all that. I mean, Chloe got a full ride to University of Michigan.
Oh, yeah. That's amazing.
So, and there's only...
She blessed you as a grandfather too, didn't she?
Yeah, so I have 2 grandkids, and that's pretty awesome. And
amazing.
Yeah. So it's pretty great. Pretty lucky. One of the things that I don't usually tell this to people, but I might as well tell you this because, okay, so when I was like, let's say circa 9 years old, right? 8 years old. I'm walking back to my dorm on a Sunday evening. The bell has rung. We have to go in, and with no parents around or anything, I'm crying, right? Because I'm like probably 8, because I'm all alone, right? You don't have any friends in a way. You have kind of classmates, but they're... I shouldn't say they're not friends, but look, you don't have any family, right?
Right.
My brother went to school, but he was separated from me up in the upper dorms.
Because he was older.
Yeah. And the whole intention of that school is to never let the children, family units live together. That was the British motto, right? So you separate the families so nobody can draw alliances, right? And so there was never bonding done between me and my brother. To this day, we're not very close. I mean, I think we would like to be closer, but those days are gone. Yeah. So the reason I'm saying this is because it's really formed my life, right? That aloneness. And I've driven like crazy to never, my circle is very tight. My circle is very small and not a lot of friends because I don't want to lose them or whatever the case may be, whatever that is, right? It's a very small circle. And I just told God, I'll do this for you, and I don't like the idea of making deals with God. That's not, you shouldn't do this. I'm not recommending this.
This is some wisdom here.
But I was 8, man.
Uh-huh.
I was terrified. Right down the road, down 1,000 feet away are the drums of the African evening drums. Their ritual stuff going on. It's
Mhm.
scary. It's kind of scary to an 8-year-old.
Especially when it's dark out.
Yeah,
You hear that stuff
it's
going on.
the sunlight's fading,
Yeah.
and imagine it. You're walking back. I'm walking back to my dorm all alone, and I'm crying because I'm all alone. And I'm saying to God, I'll do this for you. I'll be strong for you. Just someday I want a family. And you know what? God granted me that.
Mm.
So I see his blessing in this world. And I do believe that this world is, not totally broken. I think it's a place that we can restore. And the beauty in it is, I think if we come full circle with beauty, um, we need to be able to look for it, find it, and see it. And when you see your kids grow up, when you see your um, grandkids come to being,
Mhm.
you realize that God is there's a there's a power out there. We're not just molded. We're not just formed out of mud. This isn't a thing. We didn't just happen. This didn't just happen. There's a plan for this.
Mhm.
Even though there's chaos in the world,
Even we don't understand it all the time.
but all that chaos and all that evil we should expect it as Christians.
Mhm.
We should know that God is in control of that, and we should rely on his strength. Because if my God isn't strong enough to solve the problems of this world, then what God do I have?
Mhm.
My God is strong enough to solve this, and there is some reason why there is struggle in the world. I don't understand why my friends in Africa are on the struggle bus for so long. I mean, I was just reading last night. 1480 is when the Portuguese showed up on the mouth of the Congo River to for slaves. 1480.
It's a long time ago.
This is before America was found.
Yeah.
The West was found. 1492. So it's a few it's a few years before,
Mhm.
and the Portuguese were there for slavery, and that whole country has ever been since that kind of historic recording of history has been
Occupied.
an occupied
Yeah.
and just a place where people have taken advantage of the resources. And I say resources because when you talk about slavery, it's a resource
A
for
human resource.
human resource.
Mhm.
And it's when slavery is involved, you realize, I saw the Africans with hands cut off. I saw the Africans with one leg cut off. I saw the African or foot cut off. I saw that. My grandfather has pictures of that. And that comes from slavery. It comes from that history that country has. And the fact that is so intense about how people behave there still to this day in the manner in which that's all they know. It's a subsistence existence, and it's poverty, and they have a wealth of resources, but the chaos has been imposed upon them by outside forces, and they can't get out of the miry clay because they don't have the education, the background that they need to have a governing body that's not corrupt. That they don't have a uh, a, a, a police force, or how would you say it, a law and order um, organization
Mhm.
that enables them to have stability. And when you don't have those things, who wants to invest in stability? No investment wants to invest in there with resources. They like the chaos because they can basically rip it off.
Mm,
And I'm not the only one saying that. You can go read that.
right.
I'm not just saying that because I
But
have.
you wouldn't want to go build a beautiful building there, right?
Well, I did. I built a beautiful hospital center there for them. I mean, I didn't build it by my hands. I drew it
up for them.
Drew it up for them and put it all together, and somebody else went and built it.
Beautiful.
And so those kind of things are beauty too. I mean, it isn't just about building St. Peter's and beautiful classical architecture. It's also about building trades that are traditionally have the traditional ability to. The Africans could make it. Like for my dad, the reason I'm in building is because my dad was such a builder. He didn't just go over there and put walls up. We literally built a cottage industry of making brick. Like we fired brick. Well, we formed the brick. We found the clay mine that they use, which is very easily to find in that country because it's a lot of clay.
A lot of clay. No.
You've probably seen pictures. There's a lot of red dirt there, so that you can find clay. So what we did, that's what mud huts are made out of, right? Well, instead of doing mud huts, we made clay. We fired it so that it would have more sustainable existence. I mean, everybody talks about sustainability here. Crying out loud, my dad was doing sustainability back in the 60s and not even knowing it, I guess. And we would use he would use the clay mud for mortar, and then we would pack the joints with cement mortar to keep the termites out. So there's ways to like do with less, do more with less.
Sure.
So, yeah.
So going a little bit deeper into beauty, do you see beauty everywhere?
Yeah, because here's the deal. Like God, well, I can see beauty and I also see ugliness in both perspectives. The African people are absolutely beautiful people. The friends that I know, I could show you a picture of my best friend's mother, and she's just this beautiful woman. Now, she's not a runway model or anything like that, but she's just this beautiful person, just awesome, right? She's wrinkly, she's got beautiful dark skin that looks like ebony, and she's got working hands that you can tell have labored over fires and fields of that's beautiful to me. Like the beauty are the hands that and feet that bring you good news. And there's a picture of my mother stooping down that I have in my house, handing a little clay figure to a little boy for church or Sunday school that my mother taught the little boys and girls out there in the Congo. And it just is beauty of the hands and feet that bring you good news. And so beauty is really a broad perspective for me in not just what the Western world and sort of media shows what beautiful is, but architecture has definitely been a big part of my life and how beauty is relevant to how forms go together. And it's all about the human body and proportions and ratios. And those proportions and ratios were granted to us by a creator that was beautiful in the sense that we are beautiful because we're made in the image of God. So if we're made in the image of God, we must be beautiful. Period. Sure. And then we know when something's abnormal. We know, like, when somebody's hand is missing, it's like, ouch, that's shocking, right? We know when somebody's blind, it's shocking, right? And those things are of the world. They're not of God's creation. So that's because of the fall of man, not because God's.
I got something beautiful for you. Here's a little gift for you.
Yeah, what's up?
So That's one of the ministries that a patient of mine does.
Okay.
That is olive wood from Israel.
Nice.
And it's just a beautiful piece. And the way he uses it is that goes in your pocket.
You bet.
And then it's part of the ministry if somebody needs it. And you reach in there and you can hand it to them.
Nice. Okay. I'll do it.
So that's yours for being on the show today.
Well, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an amazing thing. Like, I have some other stories, like, if I can, 72 games. Now that you brought up Israel, I was sitting in the airport in Rome when that happened with my parents. So 72 games is when the hostage crisis took place with the Israeli athletes, right? And I was very in tune with this whole aspect of hostages and airplanes and all this nonsense, if you will, that this because of my family and because of our background with missions and blah 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 and our so it's just really sweet that you give this to me. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Yeah.
How do you create beauty? Right? Can you design it?
Oh yeah. I mean, I guess what I look at is I look at a lot of historical references. I have a lot of books. I collect books. I don't know how many I have. A couple thousand probably books.
Do you have a library?
Yeah, I have a library that's in my office, and everybody comes in. Wow, it's like, yeah, it's just a bunch of old books, man.
Oh,
yeah, it's 9 feet tall.
Yeah.
Floor to ceiling, and then I have some flat layers in there for folios and whatnot. And I have these old books because it, well, for one, I guess maybe it's just compensation because I don't read, so I just collect books.
You have a whole library and you don't read the books.
Yeah, but the reality is they're all picture books. I mean, for me, I've been told by my colleagues at work, it says, "Geez, I don't understand how you do this. You have the book and you have an image in your head, and you want to go to it, and you can pick the book out, and there it is."
You're like, I've read every book on the shelf.
Yeah,
I know where it is.
Basically have read every book on the shelf. So, and then I'll be like, okay, where's that book? Let's find this image. So it's when I look at those books and find beauty, what I'm looking for is, how is that? What making a place is like? What makes a place beautiful? What does it feel beautiful? How does it make us feel beautiful? First of all, beauty doesn't just walk down a runway. It also needs to be comfortable. It needs to be warm. It needs to feel secure, dry. I mean, one of the greatest problems that an architect has is water. How do we make our comfort, our feeling of security, beautiful, without feeling as though we're trapped in architecture? And that's one of the things modernism tends to avoid, is they want to shock your system as opposed to comfort your system. So to me, that's kind of like not cool, I guess, to use a colloquial term.
What's the point of that response?
The point modernism wants you to be shocked so that you get an impression and you remember them. I'm not interested in remember. You don't have to remember me. I'm more interested in about making you feel comfortable in a violent world of sin, essentially. And your children should be comfortable. Your family should feel good. Look, when you dress up, I mean, maybe this isn't true for everybody, but it is true for me, and I think it is psychologically true for most. Mm-hmm. If I'm going to go out in the public and I go in my pajamas, which seems a little weird to me, but I've seen it.
Happens.
Yeah.
Just go to Walmart.
Right.
Yeah.
I won't do that. I just don't do that. I have to dress up, right? Not dress up in a suit, but but there is a point where, like, whenever I went to take a test, an exam, I always dressed up, like in a button-down shirt, vest, everything kind of had to be, leather shoes, just to feel more confident. You feel more confident, right? It's kind of like putting on your armor, right? And that's how I think we need to get people to understand beauty. That's beautiful, right? Like putting on a blazer, it's not uppity, it's just putting on my armor, because I go out in the public and it's rough and tough and tumble, right?
Sure.
So I want to put on my armor, right? And I think we need to stop acting like it's okay to go out in your t-shirt and flip up flops and
Giant.
right. You don't have your armor on. You're not guarded. And so it tends to, and I'm not trying to be, I don't want you to think that I'm like this snob or anything. I came from a very poor family, very poor. I mean, if you want to know what a missionary makes, I can tell you it's below the poverty line. Okay. We were way below the poverty line as missionaries. I mean, my parents were making so little that, I don't want to get into that, but it we had leather shoes. We had pants and shirts that sometimes had buttons. We would literally get shirts that had no buttons. The buttons were taken off as missionary kids. So my mom would have to go in and sew the buttons back on. I'm just telling you, we were poor. But my point is, we still wore. My mother expected us to wear a button-down shirt, and we had a little blazer. So we put our armor on, so we felt confident in a world that was pretty harsh,
hostile.
Yeah,
Sure.
and literally, we had no clothes coming home from the Congo. We literally wore Congolese clothes coming home from from that country. But it was still the Congolese blazer, pant, the suit that you wore, and we put our armor on. And I was always taught that you're putting putting up your best out. You're putting your best out forward.
I've always wondered about animals. Did you ever have any?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. You're talking about these lakes and this kind of stuff out there. Did you have crocodiles, alligators?
Oh yeah. Well, crocs.
Yep.
Not alligator. All crocs. So, geez, Pete.
Do you ever have anything scary get in your bedroom?
Yeah. So snakes. Snakes were bad. So cobras, puff adders. You've heard of the black mamba. Well, that's not Kobe Bryant. That's actually
These are
a
real
real
snakes.
snake.
Yeah.
It's the fastest, most deadliest snake, or it's the fastest snake. And the green mamba is the deadliest snake. Both are paired quite close together as far as deadly. So
is the cobra deadly too?
Oh yeah, cobra's deadly. Cobra was hooded at my mom walking into the house, into her bedroom, and the cobra stood up on her and was like ready to strike. A cobra was under her table. Spitting cobra was under her table, spitting on her legs.
What is a spitting cobra?
So
like it literally spitting its venom?
Yeah, it spits its venom and basically shoots for the prey's eyes to blind it, and then kills it.
Does it affect your skin though? If it hits your leg, your lower leg?
That I don't know. No, I don't think it does.
Yeah.
But it's probably not cool to have it under the table spitting at you.
So do you try to kill these snakes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we didn't. We would leave the room. You'd get out.
Yeah.
Because that thing is faster than you think. So
yeah, they're scary quick.
Then, we would have the house. Now, I'm going to say this, and probably people are going to really attack me, but let's not. I'm not worried about it. We had African help, because we were expected to have the African help. If you didn't have it, and we paid them a sum of money that was appropriate for that help. Like we had a yard boy, we had a house boy, and I shouldn't even say boy, but a house person, whatever. But and a house girl, and that was our help, and we were expected to have that. if we didn't have it, then there was going to be trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And so we would ask the Africans to help us get rid of the snakes. They would always come and help, and they would manage to remove the snake very quickly.
Eliminate it.
Yeah, they were good at it. They were used to.
Any large beast animals, lions, hippos, anything crazy, giraffes? Did you see any of that stuff?
Oh yeah, there's game reserves over there that these things are basically kept. You know,
They kind of live on.
They live on because the African, just like here, the game reserves protect the animals. And even off of the game reserve, we would see animals as well, but less so. But monkeys and crocodiles, we would see. We were told to not go down to the river. We were at what was called a tributary to the Nile, is what we lived on. And believe it or not, the Nile goes that far down into Africa to Congo.
And the Nile starts in like Egypt, right?
Yeah. No. Yeah. Well, that's where the mouth of it is.
Yeah.
The delta. But interesting story. My mother sailed up the Nile to exit Congo and Africa in 1945. Sailed up the Nile to Alexandria, went to the pyramids. So that's why this little pyramid that you have on your desk here with this purpose and identity,
transitions and service.
It reminded me of her. Talk about service. I have 3 stones from the pyramids that she brought back when she was 6 years old in her pocket. So whatever that is, it's a long time ago. It's almost 100 years ago, 90 years ago.
Did you ever have any monkeys get into the house or into the school?
Yeah. Where food is, they would get in. Vervet monkeys. We had Calabas monkeys. It was yes,
quite the upbringing.
Yeah. We had a pet chimpanzee, which probably wasn't the wisest choice for a pet as a child, but we did.
That's an interesting memory.
Yeah.
Got any old pictures of him?
Oh yeah, Rosie. She.
Yeah.
Oh,
even better.
She's funny. You train her. It was a little weird looking back.
But it is not a traditional upbringing.
No, like I said, we didn't grow up with picket fence and t-ball. It was we played soccer, football, and we played it with a grass ball. It was a wrapped woven grass ball. It was a little hard on your feet.
Sounds like it.
So yeah, but they were tough. So you had to be tough.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of interesting ground.
Yeah.
Do you have any parting knowledge or wisdom you'd want to sign off with, or do you think we covered it all?
Well, I just want to say that, if God's been good to me and God has blessed me, and I don't say that just because I have, have given resources. God gave me a skill that took a while to sort of develop and to evolve as it was kind of found out that I could actually draw. And I love drawing, and I love making beautiful spaces and imagining beautiful spaces. And I guess the wisdom I would have is you've got to always search for that God has something for you. And the purpose in our life isn't necessarily what we think it should be. I would have loved to have been a professor of full-time professor, blah, 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 of the, University of Notre Dame, but God didn't have that for me. And I would love to have maybe, worked in New York and being world famous, but God didn't have that for me either. But you know what? I realize now that God had something for me here, and it's a great place to live, Petoskey, but it also is, from a business perspective, it's kind of like I was told, well, you're just going up there wasting your talents and skills and blah, blah, blah. And I said to that person, I said, well, yeah, maybe that's probably, maybe, excuse me, thanks for the advice, and I realize now, older in life, that the beauty of what I've done is that God has granted me is that family, right? That I asked for, which I don't deserve, in a way that and as because we're fallen people.
Sure.
But God is good to me, good to us, and he does grant us beautiful beauty in our life, and beauty comes in a lot of different ways. It's not just making buildings beautiful, and it's not just making artwork. However, I guess my thought is, whatever you do, you really got to do it for the glory of God, and what His wisdom and His grace will grant you is really up to Him. And in the long run, 60 years down the road now, as I'm 60, I realized that, my family's in place. Are they perfect? No. One's dealing with sickness and illness for a decade, and still, but God is graciously found a world, a temporary solution, I see, in this world for her, and that's okay. And would I like her to be perfect again, illness wise? Yeah, of course, we pray for that all the time. But just be in tune with God's desire in your life, and if you're not first and foremost a believer, find a church and ask about how to become a believer. That's the last bit of wisdom, because that's really
going to be the last thing you have to deal with. Yep.
All right. Sounds
Jonathan,
good.
I appreciate it so much.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for getting on here, sharing your story. It's quite a testimony, quite an interesting life. I'm happy you've been blessed with all the things you have.
Thanks.
Thank you for getting on here. For everyone else listening, thank you so much for tuning into this episode. If you want to find out more about what we're doing, purposemaker.com. You can also get signed up on the website. And thank you so much for your time. We're going to sign off here today.